Hi everyone, welcome to Bee Crochets. Hi there. This is my first YouTube live, so I hope you can hear me all right. I'm not entirely sure how all the features work, but I am working on crocheting all 100 snowflakes from the book 100 Snowflakes to Crochet, and it's called Create Your Own Snowdrift. And I have a few started here, and these are from other patterns, not from the book. But I would like to kind of make them into a wall design, which I think would be super fun. Thank you. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm starting with number 4. I actually tried these first 3 out on TikTok Live, just for fun. I wanted to see how it worked, and now I'm giving YouTube Live a go. I think it'll be fun, and I'm hoping you guys can hear me all right. I know I'm using my phone, but I think the sound should be okay. So this is number 4 that I'm making here. So we're going to chain 6 and combine that with a slip stitch. And next we're going to do, let me bring my laptop a little bit closer. I know you can't really see it, but it is a book called 100 Snowflakes to Crochet, and you can actually get a free copy on archive.org. You just kind of create your own free account and you're able to access it and borrow the book. It kind of gets sent back to the library when you're not using it, but it is a really, really neat feature. The only thing is sometimes when I'm in the middle of a snowflake, it can freeze and you have to reborrow it, but it's still pretty neat. So now I'm going to do 11 single crochets into this ring here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Give myself a little more yarn. 9, 10. Push that back a little bit, and 11. So our first row is just single crochets, and then we're going to slip stitch into that first chain 1, which is acting as a single crochet. And we have our first row. Now we're going to move on to row 2. And the nice thing about these is that quite a few of them only have 3 rounds besides the foundation chain, which is very nice, very simple. So for row 2, we're going to chain 3. And then we're going to start with a double crochet here into the first single crochet. And we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Give myself a little more yarn. And we're going to double crochet again. Should probably complete that. We're going to chain 3. I've got 2 more double crochets. And we're going to chain 3 again. And this is just going to be the base of our snowflake. Chain 3. And you can see slowly the shape is starting to build up. There we go. And for our last chain 3, we're going to connect into our first chain stitch here at the top. And that's going to be our other double crochet. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we're just going to slip stitch here into the top of the third. Now this always gives me a hard time. There we go. And that is our first row done. Now we're going to move on to round 3. And we're going to chain 3. And like I said in the beginning, this one only really has 3 rounds. So you can see in this second round, we have already started to kind of set up a little bit. So we're going to, again, do a double crochet here into this double crochet. So similar pattern. 1, 2, and this chain acts as our first double crochet here. And we are also going to do 2 double crochets, chain 8 to make our picot. So we have 1, 2. Now we're going to chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8. And to turn this into a picot, we're going to slip stitch back here into the first chain. And we have kind of our first little snowflake attachment, our first little picot. So we're going to finish this section and do 2 double crochets to finish off the chain space. And this one's super simple. It's just more double crochets, 1 into the top of each double crochet from the round before. So we have 1 and 2. And then into the chain space, it is 2 double crochets, 1, 2. We're going to chain 8 for our picot, and slip stitch again into the first chain, and we're going to do again 2 double crochets into the chain space, so we don't have to worry about trying to hunt down each individual chain, which is a pain, but it is a rather simple design. And we have our second little picot. So you can see it's starting to form, kind of becoming a little more sturdier instead of just this flimsy, like here you can't really see the chain, or the space rather. So as we continue going around, it is going to kind of stiffen up the design and make it a little more obvious. And especially this being the last round, it should form the shape that we want pretty nicely. So again, we're going to chain two double crochets and then chain 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to slip stitch here into this first chain. And 2 double crochets. And we're going to double crochet again into the top of this one. And again into the top of this one. Oop. And we're about halfway through it. You can see these ones are going to start curling up on themselves anyways. That's just going to be like that until you either starch them out, you can iron them. I know there's sugar setting, I think. I could be wrong on that. I don't know if it was sugar, but I know it was something else besides cornstarch that's really stiffened up the pattern. So I'm going to give some of those a try soon to see what works best for these kinds of snowflakes. We have 6, 7, 8. Let me double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Perfect. We're going to slip stitch into this first one here. And that is our 4th picot. We're going to secure it here with a double crochet into the chain space and another double crochet into the chain space. And that kind of brings that picot back down. And you can see the snowflake really starting to shape up now. We're going to go again into the top of these double crochets. Again, the chain space. And we're going to chain 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to make our picot by slip stitching, and we're going to chain that or secure that with a double crochet and a second for the pattern to really space out that chain space and make it a little more obvious. And this is going to be our last chain space, and we can bind off. So we're going to do double crochets into the tops of these double crochets, double crochet into the chain space. Now we're going to form our last picot, so chain 8. and slip stitch into this first one here. And our last 2 double crochets. And now we're going to slip stitch into the top of our chain 3. And we're going to finish off round 3 for number 4 on the snowflake list. Whoop. I always have issues with these. I have a very hard time seeing, so I'm just going to go to the back and hook that single one so that I can pull it through. Just kidding. It's going to give me a hard time now because I know people are watching me. There we go. So we slip stitched there, and now we have our little snowflake. I'm going to cut that off. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to fix that. Okay, and there we go. That's a little better. So that is number 4 from the 100 Snowflakes to Crochet, and I can show you the pattern right here. That was number 4. It was called Spring Snow. And we have done these first 3 already. So we're going to move on to the next page and number 5. So I'm going to cut this one off, and I won't bother you with fixing these ends. I'll do that later. But so far we have numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this pile is from different patterns, but I wanted to try all 100 patterns from the book 100 Snowflakes to Crochet and make my own snowdrift. So I'm doing a couple different colors. I hesitate to do this one on the live. I need more in this color, but I know it's very hard to see, so I'm going to avoid that for now. But we're going to move on to number 5, and it is called Nevada. Again, with most of the snowflakes here in this book, it only has 3 rounds so far. I think this number 6 coming up does have a round 4. However, from what I can see, most of them are just 3 rounds of crochet. So we're going to go ahead and pick a different color for this one. And I'm going to go ahead and make my slip knot. Get that tight enough onto my hook. And for Nevada, it is a chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to slip stitch here into the first chain. And I honestly prefer these over a magic circle. I'm just not a huge fan of magic circle. I know a lot of people that do it are. I just never really got behind it, I guess. Especially for something like this, it doesn't entirely matter. You can see it comes out pretty nice and even for almost all of her patterns so far. And this one I did earlier, and they look perfectly fine to me. So for round number 1, like most of these, we're going to chain 1, and that's going to count as our first single crochet. And we're going to do 11 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to push that back a little bit. 9, 10, and 11. And now I'm going to slip stitch into the first chain 1, which is always fun. And that should give us 12 single crochets in row 1. For row 2, we're going to chain 3, which is going to act as our double crochet. So 1, 2, 3. And then we are going to double crochet into this first single crochet from the hook. We're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to do 2 double crochets. So very similar to the last pattern. The base is just kind of setting up these chain spaces that you can work off of to really get a nice design here. So we're going to do that again. Chain 3 and 2 double crochets. And again, 2 double crochets. Another chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And because it's an even amount of single crochets in your first row, you can just keep going until you reach your first chain. Now we're going to chain 3, another double crochet, and that is going to be our last chain 3. Well, not our last chain 3, but our last 2 double crochets into the first round. And now this is going to be our last chain 3, just setting up the base chain spaces that we're going to be working off of for row 3, or round 3, I guess. So we're going to go into the top of that chain 3, and we're going to do a slip stitch. And there we have round 2. So you can see our chain spaces are kind of setting us up for our picots to be able to build off of that. And let me pull this guy a little bit closer. There we go. Okay, and this is our last round. So we are going to be doing a chain 1, which is going to count as our single crochet. And now we're going to make the picot. So the picot is this cute little thing over here that really makes it look like a snowflake and really gives it that character. So we are going to chain 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then she wants to slip stitch in the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this slip stitch is going to make one of our picots here. And you can see it's sticking out on the side like that. So let's finish this one to see what it's going to look like. We want to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, whoops, 5, 6. And we're going to slip stitch into the beginning of this chain. And there we have our second little bump. And we're going to do chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oop. And we're going to slip stitch here into this one. And you can see we've formed it. So now we're just going to secure it here back into this first chain that was not used. And that does not count as our single crochet. So here we're slip stitching it all together. And finally, we are going to do a single crochet here into the top of our double crochet just to secure it in place and continue making our rounds. So here you can see kind of how that's going to look. It's a little dark, but it's a cute little picot. Now to finish this off, into the chain spaces, we are going to do 3 single crochets. Nope, my apologies, 2 single crochets. So into the chain space, because we don't want to worry about deforming this line at all. It's just a base. So 2 single crochets, 2 chains, 1, 2, and that's going to give it just a tiny little picot here. And finish off this chain space with 2 single crochets. And you have kind of just a tiny little picot next to the big one. I'm just going to give myself a little more yarn. And now we're going to do the big picot again. So we're going to start with a base of single crochet here into the top of the first double crochet. And I'm just going to perfect. So we are going to chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch into the 4th chain here. We are going to chain 6. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Slip stitch into the first one here. And again, we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip stitch here into the base. And we are going to secure all 3 picots back into this first chain that was never used from the chain 6. And we are going to single crochet just to secure it here and move on to the next one into the top of our double crochet. So you can see we kind of have a little snowflake starting to form. So again, we're going to do the chain space. So that's a single crochet, chain 2, and 2 more single crochets. And we're going to single crochet into the top of this double crochet. And again, we are going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our first little bump is going to be here into the 4th one from the hook. We're going to chain 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Slip stitch here into the beginning of this one. And we are going to chain 4. 1, 2, 4, we're going to slip stitch here into the beginning of that chain, and we're going to secure it from the first chain that was unused. And we do our single crochet into the top of this double crochet. And that again secures our picot. And we move on to the chain space. And all of these patterns are fairly simple, especially from the beginning of the book. Definitely very beginner friendly. And even if you do mess up, it's only 3 rows, so you could always undo it and not feel too bad about it at all. So that was 2 single crochets, 2 chains, 2 single crochets into the chain space here. Now we're going to single crochet and start our large picots again. So we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Slip stitch into the 4th chain from the hook, leaving this one to secure the 3rd picot. So we're going to do 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 for the large one at the top. Slip stitch into the base of that, into our first chain that we did. And we're going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Slip stitch it into the start of this chain. Preferably don't lose your yarn. Let me just redo that because I'd rather not lose it. And you have 1, 2, 3. We're going to connect those with this first chain that was unused. And single crochet into the top of this double crochet to secure it in place. And then we have our larger picot. And you can see it starting to form fairly nicely. The last snowflake was also a very similar setup. It just has a different round 3. So again, into the chain space is 2 single crochets. Give myself a little more yarn. Chain 2 and 2 single crochets to make a tiny picot. And then we're going to single crochet into the top of this double crochet. And again, do the pattern for our large picot, which is, the first one is chain 5. 1, 5. We're going to slip stitch into the 4th from the hook, so not using that first one, because that is where we're going to secure our last picot. This is going to be chain 6. This one can go into that first of 6, and we're going to chain 4. And this one as well can go into that first of 4. And now we're going to utilize that first chain that was not used and slip stitch it. Slip stitch our slip stitch. And then secure our picot down with a single crochet here into the top of our second double crochet. And you slowly start to see that snowflake forming. All right, our second to last chain space is 2 single crochets, chain 2, and 2 single crochets. And that just gives us a tiny little accent here from the chain spaces. We're going to single crochet into the top of that first double crochet and do our large picot again. So it is chain 5, slip stitch into the 4th from the hook. We're going to chain 6. Slip stitch into the 6th from the hook. Give myself a little more yarn. And chain 4. And slip stitch into that first one. And we're going to slip stitch into the base here of the first one that we did not use. And single crochet into the top of that double crochet. Oop. And that is our last large picot. We're going to finish with this chain space here. And our snowflake is done. That is round 3. So two single crochets, pardon me, chain 2, and 2 single crochets. You want to be careful you don't catch your little picot there with your yarn. And to finish it off, we're just going to slip stitch into that first single crochet, which was technically our chain 1. So that just gets slip stitched here into the beginning. Oop, not like that. Here into the beginning, not into the chain space. And we have our snowflake, our Nevada snowflake. I'm going to cut this one off. And you could even leave this on if you were going to use an ornament, just tie it onto the back, but I will be using it for a different purpose as a decoration. And there it is. It is quite cute. It's a little, it likes to lean a little bit. The picots aren't quite straight, but after you starch it and maybe iron it, it should flatten that out pretty quickly. So I will not bore you with weaving in the ends. We are going to move on to number 6. Now number 6 is called Polar Glacier, and it is a combination, looks like, of this last one that we just did and one of these guys here that I did from the beginning, which I think is very cute. So I am very excited about that. And I think again I'm going to use the lighter color just to alternate it. We're going to do a slip knot onto our crochet hook. And we're going to chain 6 to create our foundation. 2, 3, 6. We're going to slip stitch here into this first chain. And for our round 1, we're going to chain 3, which is going to count as our double crochet. And we're going to do 11 double crochets into our foundation ring. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and number 5, 6, 7, 9, 10, and 11. Okay, so that is the first round. And we are going to slip stitch into the top of that first chain 3, which counts as one of our double crochets. So we're going to have 12, which is nice and even. And of course, this is always fun. Slip stitching into a chain is never easy for me. I don't know if there's an easier way to do it, but I always just have to look very closely to get it through. And we're just going to slip stitch that. So we have our first round. For round 2. So this one actually has 4 rounds, which is a little different from the rest of them in the book. We're going to start with a chain 1, which is going to count as our single crochet. And we are going to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to do a single crochet into the top of our next double crochet. And just repeat that. So we're going to actually do 2 single crochets. And then do a chain 4 from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're setting up our chain spaces to kind of give us that space to build off of, basically, and give your snowflake some more volume. So we have chain 4 and then 2 single crochets. So 1, 2. We're going to chain 4 again. Stop dragging my yarn. We're going to do 2 single crochets here. I love this color so much. I think it looks fabulous in the light. Another chain 4. We're going to do 2 single crochets. Another chain 4. 2 single crochets. And a chain 4. A single crochet. And we're just going to connect a slip stitch with this original chain 5. And there we have our round 2. So for our third round, we're going to chain 1, which is going to count as a single crochet. And then we are going to do 2 single crochets into this chain space. So 1, 2. a chain 3, and 2 more single crochets, building off of that chain space. And then we are going to single crochet and make our way into the next chain space. So we have 2 single crochets into the 2 single crochets. And again, into the chain space, 2 single crochets. We're going to chain 3 and 2 single crochets. We're just going to continue across this little bridge here and do 2 single crochets into our 2 single crochets. And once we get to this chain space, we're going to keep building them up. So we're going to do 2 single crochets into this. We're going to chain 3, just giving us a little bit more of that picot. And 2 more single crochets. And I think I'm using the word picot right. I know it can stand for a couple things, but I know it's this little point here. It's not quite connected to itself, which makes me wonder if it's just kind of like a little chain space instead of a picot. I'll have to look that up, I suppose. And we're going to do 2 single crochets into the 2 single crochets connecting these chain spaces. Give myself a little more yarn and do 2 single crochets here. We're going to chain 3, 2 single crochets here. And again, single crochet our way across this little bridge. And don't lose your yarn. Again, for our chain space here, just to build it up, we're going to do 2 single crochets. Chain 3. Two single crochets. And of course, we're going to do, again, 2 single crochets into this bridge here. And this is our last chain space. So we do, just like before, 2 single crochets, chain 3, and 2 single crochets. Now we're going to connect that with a slip stitch into our first single crochet, which was our chain 1, which was over here in the beginning. Which I made too tight. We're going to slip stitch into here. Now we're going to do round 3. So we're going to chain 1, which is going to count as a single crochet. And we're going to chain 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. And now we want to slip stitch into the 4th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do a slip stitch here. That forms our tiny little picot there. We're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just to bring it back down. And we are going to single crochet into this next single crochet. And that kind of gives us our first little snowflake detail. So from here, from the beginning of this base, we are going to chain 4. We're going to make a double crochet into this chain 3 space. And we're going to chain 4 again. And we're going to single crochet into this first single crochet here in the bridge. And we're going to single crochet into the top of the next one. No, we're not. We're actually going to chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to slip stitch into the 4th from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to chain 5 to bring that back down. And that is going to get slip stitched into here. Now we're going to chain 4. Do a double crochet into the chain 3 space. Chain 4. And single crochet into this first single crochet here. Now again, we're going to do this kind of longer picot, so we're going to chain 9. And slip stitch into the 4th from the hook, which is right here. Making our little picot, chain 5 to bring it back down. 2, 3, 5. And single crochet here into this little bridge. And we are about halfway done, so we're going to chain 4. Double crochet into the top of the chain 3 space. Chain 4 again to bring it back down. Single crochet into here. And we're going to make our little picot, so we're going to chain 9. Slip stitch into the 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4. And chain 5 to bring it back down. And single crochet into that little bridge. We're going to chain 4 again. Double crochet into the top of that chain 3. Chain 4 to bring it down. single crochet into the top of this single crochet. We're going to do our longer picot again. So we're going to chain 9. And slip stitch into the 4th from the hook. 1, 2, 3, 4, making our little picot. Chain 5. And single crochet here. We're going to chain 4. Do a double crochet into that chain 3 space. And we're going to chain 4 to bring it back down. And do a single crochet into this little bridge here. So single crochet here. And we are going to do the last of our large picot. Oops. My hook caught some thread there. And this is going to be our last tall picot for this round. So let's do chain 9. Now to make the little picot, we're going to slip stitch into the 4th from the hook. And that's going to give you that little ball at the top. We're going to chain 5 to bring it back down. And that's going to be a single crochet into the 2nd single crochet in the bridge. And then just our last final detail here. Oops. And we're going to make this little detail on the chain space again. We're going to chain 4. Do a double crochet here into the top of this chain 3 space. And we're going to chain 4 to bring it back down. We're going to slip stitch here into our first single crochet. And that is snowflake number 6. This is the polar glacier.